You're watching kickingdown.com.
So this alley here is the alley between Columbia and Carroll and Hastings and Pender. And this was an alley that I used to use in. So you know what, I think this is going to be super interesting for me and for anybody that's watching this, because I do have access to something that not a lot of people do have access to. I live down here, I use down here, I know the people down here, and I'm a recovering addict, so I don't think it's like the coolest thing actually for anybody to do. So I don't recommend going and hanging out in alleys, in places that you used, or if you have a weight problem, like hanging out in donut shops. Like, it's not the coolest thing to do. But for the sake of, I don't know what the point of that is. Like, I just wanted to come down here. I want to come down here and share about my experience down here and create a new story for myself, because when I was down here I was using heavily, and this was the alley that I did most of my using in. And I'd do a smash of coke and I would flip out, and I would usually like climb these buildings, get on the roof, freak out, and do all sorts of weird stuff. So people say in cognitive therapy that you can rewire your brain and create a new story. So that's partly what I'm doing here, is I'm creating a new story and I'm sharing that experience with other people. So should be interesting. So a few weeks ago, probably like 8 weeks ago, I was asked to be on Ari Shaffirs' podcast, and I didn't know who Ari Shaffir was, and yeah, it was kind of interesting. My friend Chris James, who's a comic who happened to be working at the Comedy Mix, called me up and said, hey, this guy Ari Shaffir is in town, and he talked really highly of him, and asked me if I wanted to be on his podcast to talk about heroin. And I didn't know who he was, and I've never been on a podcast or even listened to one, and so I thought, yeah, that'd be cool. Let's do that. And I think that's what made that podcast really interesting and really authentic, is because A, I didn't know who he was, and B, I didn't know how many people would end up listening to this thing. And so it was just really an honest account. He asked me some questions. I always love telling new people in my life stories, because like, obviously with your friends you can't keep telling the same stories over and over again, and so it is kind of refreshing to talk to someone you don't know and that's actually interested in knowing about you. And addiction is something that I know intimately, and trauma and all sorts of stuff. And so when somebody asks me about that, it's nice to be able to talk about that, because it's not every day in life that you get that opportunity to sit down with someone and to talk about that stuff. So yeah, I think that's the only reason why that podcast turned out the way it turned out, was the barriers that normally wouldn't have been there, or the barriers that would have been there weren't there, and so therefore we just kind of jumped into something and had a really great conversation. But what really came out of that for me was that it gave me focus and direction. I had kind of lost my focus with kickingdown.com and my Twitter account. I didn't really know what I was doing with it anymore, because I was doing business before, and then now I was just kind of getting away from that. So yeah, like the outpouring of support was unreal. Like people saying, hey, we want to hear more from you. And I thought, wow, like this is crazy. People want to hear about this stuff, and I love talking about it, so, you know, why not? But there was some things standing in my way, and there were just some fear things, and I'll share those with you. I had so much fear about how to do this. Like, how do I make a video? I could do it with my iPhone. simple as that. And then, you know, I got an application, iMovie, that I could clip stuff together and just kind of go for it. And so what you're going to see here is just like a progression of me, like as I go, because I don't really know what I'm doing. I want to pump out some content and share my story and some experiences that I've had in life with people, because that's what people seem to be interested in. They're interested in hearing from me. And hey, you know what? If it helps somebody, great. I think that, you know, most importantly, sharing this stuff will help me. So thanks for checking out kickingdown.com. Come back for more to come. And you can follow me on Twitter, Donovan PEE. See you next time.
Okay, bye.